There is a country that gave the world this game. It wrote the first rules, built the first clubs, founded the first professional league on Earth, and in the century and a half since, the nation that invented football has won its World Cup exactly once. One trophy, one golden afternoon.
Jeff Hurst saw an opening in the defense and achieved a hat-trick.
60 years ago, everything since has been a single unbroken sentence. So close. This is the story of the most talented, the best funded, the most relentlessly worshipped team the sport has ever produced, and the strangest, most spectacular losing streak in football history. And right now, at the 2026 World Cup, they are chasing it all over again. To understand the disappointment, you have to understand the expectation, because no other nation carries quite the same weight. England didn't just play football early, England codified it. In 1863, in a London pub, a handful of clubs agreed on a single set of rules, and the modern game was born. The world's first league followed in 1888, the phrase you hear every other summer. "It's coming home" isn't really about a trophy, it's a claim of ownership. Football, the English insist, is theirs. It only ever left on loan, and the modern numbers seem to back the myth. England is home to the richest, most watched league on the planet. Its clubs spend more than anyone. Its players are among the most expensive and most decorated athletes alive. Every August, the eyes of 1 billion people turn to England. So here is the question that has haunted a country for 6 decades. If you invented the game, if you bankroll the game, if the whole world watches your league, then why, when it actually matters, can't you win the thing? Let's be fair to the ghosts. 1966 was real. On home soil, in front of a delirious Wembley, England beat West Germany 4-2 in extra time. Jeff Hurst's hat trick, the most famous final whistle in the country's history, a golden generation crowned, and then nothing. For 60 years, that one star has sat alone on the shirt, no second World Cup. For nearly 6 decades, no major trophy of any kind. Sit with the scale of it. In the same window, England has won nothing. Germany and Italy have each won multiple World Cups. France has won 2 and reached the final of 2 more. Spain reinvented the sport and swept everything in sight. Even nations a fraction of England's size, with a fraction of its money, have lifted the biggest prize football has to offer. It isn't that England has been bad. Bad would be simpler. Bad you could rebuild from. England has been good. Good enough to believe. Good enough to dream. Good enough to break your heart on schedule for 60 straight years. That, it turns out, is a far more painful way to fail. And nowhere has the heartbreak been more ritualistic, more cruel than from 12 yards out. It begins in Turin, 1990, a World Cup semi-final. Pierce and Waddle miss, and a young midfielder named Gareth Southgate watches from home. A teenager, learning the national religion of the missed penalty. 6 years later, it's Southgate himself, Euro 96. On home turf, in front of his own people, his penalty is saved by Germany. The image follows him for the rest of his life. 1998, Argentina, David Beckham sent off, then Ince and Batty miss. 1999, Portugal, Beckham skies one over the bar. 2000, Portugal again, England's so-called golden generation converts a single penalty out of 4. 2001, Italy, Young and Cole. Of the 11 shootouts England has faced at major tournaments, they've won just 4. They have lost more than any other nation in Europe, 6 times. Their summer has ended not to a better team, but to a coin toss they kept calling wrong. This stopped being a sporting statistic a long time ago. It became national folklore, a curse passed down like a family heirloom. Managers were asked about it, politicians were asked about it, children grew up expecting it, and expectation in football has a way of becoming destiny. The English didn't fear the penalty shootout because they were unlucky. After a while, they missed because they were afraid. There was one exorcism. 2018, in Russia, England finally won a World Cup shootout against Colombia, and the relief in a nation was almost violent, but even that was a quarter-final stepping stone. The wait went on. And here is the cruelest chapter of all, because here, England had everything. The early 2000s gave England a squad so loaded it earned its own nickname, the Golden Generation. David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Michael Owen, world-class in every position, Champions League winners, players who, week to week, were among the very best on the planet. And at tournament after tournament, this collection of superstars walked off the pitch, in the quarter-finals, again and again. The most expensive, most celebrated group of English footballers ever assembled never once reached a World Cup semi-final. Theories piled up. Some blamed the formations. Two great midfielders, Gerrard and Lampard, who somehow never fit in the same team. Some blamed the club rivalries. Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United stars asked to bleed for one another after 10 months trying to destroy one another. Some blamed the pressure, the press, the impossible weight of a nation that demanded a trophy as a birthright. But the truth is simpler and harder. The most gifted generation in English football history produced exactly 0 trophies. Talent was never England's problem. Talent England has always had in abundance. What England has never quite been able to find is the team. Every long fall has a floor. England found theirs on a warm night in France. Euro 2016, the round of 16. England, the inventors, the billionaires, the Premier League superpower, against Iceland, a nation of around 300,000 people, a country with more volcanoes than professional footballers. England lost to Iceland. The manager resigned that same night, on the pitch, in front of the cameras. The next man hired lasted a single match before a scandal forced him out. A footballing superpower had been reduced to a punchline, humiliated by a country smaller than most English towns. It was, by any measure, the lowest moment in the modern history of the team. And, strangely, it's where this story turns, because rock bottom is also where the most painful idea of all was waiting. Out of the wreckage of Iceland came the man who had missed that penalty in 1996, Gareth Southgate, and for a while, it felt like the curse was lifting. Southgate restored the dressing room, made the shirt feel like a privilege again, and dragged England further than anyone had in half a century. In 4 tournaments, he reached 3 semi-finals, and for the first time ever at a European Championship, 2 finals. Euro 2020, played in 2021. The final at Wembley against Italy. England scored inside 2 minutes. A whole country dared to believe. And then, of course, penalties, and a 19-year-old Bukayo Saka, with the weight of 60 years on his shoulders, watched his kick saved. England lost a final at home from the spot again. 3 years later, Berlin, another final. This time, against a magnificent Spain. England fought, scored, believed, and lost 2-1 to the better team. Their second European final in a row, their second defeat. Southgate left as one of the most successful managers England ever had, and still without a trophy, and it raised a genuinely unsettling question, which is worse, the quarter-final humiliations of the golden generation, or this, reaching the final, touching the trophy, and losing anyway, twice in a row. Maybe England isn't the most disappointing team in football because it loses. Maybe it's the most disappointing team because it always gets just close enough to make you believe, right before it breaks your heart. But let's be fair, because the title of most disappointing is, in truth, a contested one. The Netherlands gave the world total football, dazzled everyone, and lost 3 World Cup finals without ever winning one. Hungary's mighty Magyars of the 1950s were perhaps the greatest team of their age, and still walked off the pitch in 1954 as losing finalists. Disappointment, it turns out, has a long and crowded waiting room. And here's the uncomfortable truth for anyone wagging a finger at England. By the cold numbers, England under Southgate was one of the most consistent deep runners in world football. 2 finals, multiple semis. That isn't the record of a failure. That's the record of a contender that keeps failing at the final hurdle. So perhaps the disappointment was never really about the team at all. Perhaps it's about us, about a country, and a press, and a global audience that decided long ago this team was owed a trophy and treats anything less as a betrayal. England's great disappointment may be less a failure of football and more a failure of expectation. The gap between what England is, very good, and what England has been told it should be, the best in the world by birthright. Which brings us to now, and to the 2026 World Cup. Because the wait is 60 years long, there's a new man in charge, Thomas Tuchel, a German, hired with one mission, written into his contract. Put a second star on that shirt, and there's a new generation carrying it. Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Harry Kane chasing the trophy that has eluded every great Englishman before him. This summer, across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, they get their shot at it. They arrived unbeaten in qualifying. 8 games, not a single goal conceded, ranked among the very best teams on the planet, favorites once again, and a nation, against all the evidence of 60 years, lets itself believe one more time. Maybe this is the one. Maybe, on the 19th of July, in a packed stadium just outside New York, an English captain finally lifts the World Cup. The second star is stitched onto that shirt, and this entire story becomes nothing more than a long, painful prologue. Or maybe, and 6 decades of history are whispering it, England will do what England has always done, carry